In our last episode, we had no weapons, only 2 thrusters, no way to get metal grids from the trade station, no refineries, and no jetpack to properly salvage in space. But we still had a single Mayday signal, which meant we still had hope. But there was so much more that happened. So this is what I need to do. I have to navigate my janky 2-thruster ship over to the Mayday signal, drop a GPS marker to make sure I don't lose the location, and get back to Pertam and land safely. If that was successful, get to my base to retrieve my rover, go to the ship and retrieve it to modify it with a ship grinder, because without a jetpack, I had no way to EVA around in space and hand grind anything, then refuel, recharge, get back to space, and hopefully salvage some metal grids with the ship grinder. If all that succeeded, I still had to re-enter Pertam's gravity again and land safely. There was a lot that could go wrong with this plan, but it was doable. First though, we needed to check out the Mayday signal and see what it might have to offer. This looked very good. A large ship, some broken thrusters, and some intact turret weapons that were almost sure to contain some metal grids. It was then I had an idea. A slight but highly risky modification of the plan. I was going to try to dismount from the helm as close as possible to one of the turrets, at least close enough to hand grind it, float helplessly in space, and hopefully within reach of the helm. If me or my ship got nudged by anything, we'd float away from each other. Not a good outcome to be left lost in space. It worked. Very dangerous, but it worked. Greed now kicked in, and I thought maybe I could get a second turret. The slightest nudge, even against what you might consider the invisible collision of some voxels, kept grazing my ship and drifting me farther away from the wreck. I seemed to have my best luck getting close with the Gatling turret. It still took a couple tries, but I did succeed in getting a second turret, and a whopping 30 metal grids. This was game-changing. I wanted to pick up the ammo, but I just couldn't seem to open the new containers or grind it more, so I left it alone. The metal grids were far more important, and I'd already rolled the dice twice with this floating hand salvage. It was time to get back to Pertam and do whatever it took to land safely. On the way back, I went through in my head the safest way to land, and I also got pulled back into Pertam's gravity, but it was also a good thing. While jetting away from the gravitational pull, I picked up a second space pirate signal. It was a space pirate base, a salvage station. With this good reputation I had with the pirates, I could possibly use this space station to do some trade, maybe even use it as a stopping off point as I made trips back and forth to space. I hadn't thought it all out, but this was extremely good. And after the last episode, I felt like I was getting into a stream of good luck. Getting into space had definitely paid off. I probably should have just focused on getting back to the planet with my metal grids, but curiosity about this new space station was way too high. And with a little justification of my actions, I figured I needed to at least mark its location with a GPS marker. This might have been a mistake. I got close and started flying around the space station to see where I might could land and dock. I wondered if this space station even had artificial gravity for me to explore it. It was then, though, the Assert faction took an interest in both me and the pirate base. they launched a drone. This was it. And I quickly assessed my options. I decided that running away was a bad idea. This two-thruster ship was not even equipped for maneuvering and escaping another ship. So I decided to stand my ground and hoped the space station's defenses would be enough to destroy the Assert drone before it could do a lot of damage to me. It was only seconds before the drone engaged, and the base opened fire, and it seemed like most of the fire was being directed to the station and its weapons. I had made the right choice. But now, the station was sending out an alarm. Maybe it was because the enemy drone had gotten close? Maybe it was because the station had taken some damage. I wasn't sure, but I spied a docking port on the side I thought would work. I could dock to it, disengage from the helm, and see if any artificial gravity took over. I never got that chance. The alarm must have been a self-destruct because the space station exploded in a fiery ball and sent the remains flying. Much like the Moonbase Alpha in the short-running series Space 1999. The space station was now exploded and was hurtling into space. My dreams of obtaining this nice stash of components were dashed, and my ship was not well enough equipped to go chasing after it. So, whatever was going to happen with it would just have to happen. I had to continue on my way back to Pertam. My adventures, though, here in space weren't over. As I sat and waited for another Assert ship to move past and get on its way, there, right in front of me, was a second Mayday signal. Space in my accidental relationship with the pirate faction was turning out to be the exact thing I needed. I was probably pressing my luck, but as close as this second Mayday signal was, I just had to investigate what it had and drop another GPS marker. I didn't see any big turret guns, but there were still some things worth salvaging. And for all I knew, there could have been a partial med bay with medical components or something in a partially destroyed storage container. So I marked this location and got back to my original plan. The feel of this game has some really great moments, and being in this kind of high orbit approach to Pertam was nice, but still not without dangers. And I had another semi-close encounter with another Assert ship passing underneath us as we approached, getting directly above our base location on Pertam. We needed to survive this. I was pulsing the engines, keeping our top speed down, while trying to nudge the ship in a direction that might bring us straight down and relatively near the base. I had packed my parachutes and set them to automatically deploy at 1,200 meters. What I didn't know was whether or not the thin atmosphere of Pertam would slow us down enough before we hit the ground. On the Earth-like planet, this wouldn't be much of a problem, but here on Pertam, I just didn't know. I was definitely off the mark some on coming down right near my base, but now I had a new problem.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
I was coming down near one of the Assert bases. If we landed within range of their turrets, they'd kill us, shred our ship, probably explode the hydrogen tanks, and very likely lose our precious cargo of metal grids. The Assert were alerted to our presence, but now, hopefully, just out of their range. We passed the 1,200 meter mark, and we're accelerating. I rotated horizontal. We were at 700 meters, and I could see the chutes had deployed, but weren't open catching any area. We accelerated. 500 kilometers and traveling 80 plus meters per second. Just then, success. Full deployment and rapid deceleration. We'd survived the landing. I was pretty impressed at the rate of descent. We kept slowing down and looked to hit the ground at under 6.5 meters per second. Touchdown and no explosions. This was way up there as one of my most exciting re-entries in the game, probably because there was so much at stake if we failed. This ship, with only 2 thrusters, had taken us to space, explored the trade station, discovered 2 wrecks and a pirate base, narrowly escaped an Assert attack, and landed safely back on the planet. Me and this little ship had bonded, and I was already formulating some new plans. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to see what we do with this ship and the rover. And I'll see you in the next episode.